really, I guess, kicking things off with your backstory and how you came to be. Can you tell me a little bit more about, I guess, your experiences in the traditional world of law and your background?
For sure. I mean, I grew up and I was always a little entrepreneur since I was a little kid. Always starting little businesses, whether it was mowing lawns or selling golf balls. I was always up to something. Um, had the chance to actually run a painting franchise business right before law school. Had some success, made some pretty good money that summer. But really, what I learned was I absolutely loved running businesses. That was the largest business I'd ever kind of embarked on, and I loved it. And so then I got scooped into law school, learned some interesting things while I was in law school, most notably this huge access crisis that leaves 77% of legal needs in North America going unmet, meaning someone has a legal question, legal issue, and they either sweep it under the rug or they try to do it themselves, but they don't engage with a legal professional, i.e. a lawyer. And so that was stunning to me because at the same time, being a law student and there was a bit of a craze to try to get these big firm jobs, it felt like there was too many lawyers. So on the one hand, you had over three-quarters of legal needs not being met by lawyers, and then on the other hand, you had the feeling within the profession that there was too many of us. So from those very early days, it felt like something was broken, and that seed was kind of planted back in law school. I did go the big firm route, worked at a big corporate law firm for 4+ years, and got to see how inefficient the business was run. And I'm talking about some of the biggest law firms in the country, and you go into an environment like that, and you kind of expect things to be super modern, high tech, really streamlined and top caliber. And no doubt the lawyers at those firms are very smart and competent lawyers. I have no doubt. I worked with a lot of really smart people, but the system predicated on billable hours just incentivized the wrong type of behavior, which was to take longer on things and to refuse to adopt technology in ways that can really streamline the experience for lawyers and clients. So I had to leave. I left the big firm about 3 years ago, and haven't looked back since, trying to build something that fits for founders and lawyers across Canada.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, just take a look at your background. You completed your undergraduate in accounting and strategy. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense, definitely with your background and really having that entrepreneurial fire in you. I guess going into it, like tell me a little bit more about the early days, about your team and how you really got started there.
Yeah, so actually started it with a co-founder that I was working with at the firm, who actually subsequently left about a year in. The risk tolerance of most lawyers is not quite like mine. I'm a bit of an oddball in that world. But my other two co-founders, Tom and Parker, are Chief Technical Officer, CTO, Parker, and then Tom is our Chief Product Officer. And those guys have been here since day one as well. And in the early days, we were building it in the apartment. I was working on it in the evenings, after work, and that was really still in the very ideation phase. Wireframing, just kind of coming up with the concept, and did that for a number of months, and then it just got to a point where we were ready to go. We, found a little bit of capital to kick things off, and I think it was February 2019. I made the leap and never really looked back.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I guess if it's public information, what was the source out of the capital, out of curiosity?
It was someone in my network actually who that painting franchise I mentioned. I did it with a really close friend of mine who I grew up playing soccer with, and we built a hell of a painting franchise, I'll tell you. And that was a terrific experience. But when I started really getting serious about the Goodlawyer opportunity, he came to me and said, I want to get involved. I want to put money in. And he tapped his network and him and his father, actually, who had been kind of watching me grow up playing soccer with Paul, the Richies. They came in with 250, and that was kind of the spark that I needed to say, okay, we've got cash in the bank, we can make a real run at this. And yeah, without the Richies, I don't know where Goodlawyer would be. So always indebted to those guys, and yeah, lucky to have them as our first investors.
Yeah, that's excellent. Glad to hear that the capital was able to find a good home. It seems like you've been able to really make it work. I guess beyond that initial seed round, can you tell, have you taken on any additional external funding, or is it essentially just kind of self-funded at this point?
No, so I mean, the very early days were self-funded because I had a pretty juicy salary, and I only had to pay a developer and a designer part-time. Obviously, it's grown a lot since then. We're over 25 people now, and the burn is real. But we've been fortunate to have a lot of fantastic investors along the way. To date, we've raised over 1.5 million and have plans to raise another round here in the next quarter or two. So the growth numbers are strong, but for us, growth is the priority. We're not trying to build a sustainable business that we can be a little platform in Canada. We have global ambitions, and to do that is going to require serious investment because, again, to maintain the growth trajectory that we're gunning for, we just need a little extra fuel on the fire. And frankly, I think that the market opportunity that we're chasing makes it very interesting to those venture scale investors.
That's excellent. Yeah, glad to hear. Right now you're located. You have a physical office in Calgary. It seems.
You're looking at it, my friend. Yeah,
it looks great.
It's been a long time waiting for that sign to go up. Let me tell you, the kitchen table for the first 2.5 years is where it was at. But being able to take this step, get a physical space, bring the team together has just been invaluable, and so rewarding. It's so nice to have a space. And I mean, even today, we work total hybrid. So yesterday it was bustling, and today it's a little quieter, and that's totally okay. But having that space to bring people together has really let us grow faster, and I think build a culture that people don't want to leave.
It's excellent. Do you plan to really remain headquartered and centered around your Calgary location, or any kind of plans to expand? What are you seeing in terms of your next steps there?
That's an interesting question. When I started Goodlawyer, the startup scene here in Calgary was very early, kind of quiet. But I can tell you, over the past 3 years, there's some real momentum, is how I would put it. There's just a growing number of folks that are building companies, that are interested in investing in companies. I know the governments locally are turning their attention to diversification in a way that they haven't previously. So for me, the best sort of outcome would be to keep HQ in Calgary forever. I would love to build a massive global business that could be headquartered in my hometown. That being said, we'll see what the future holds. Toronto is our number one market. Ontario more generally this year. That's where we see the most growth opportunities. We absolutely need to have a physical presence in Toronto, whether that needs to be HQ, where we're doing all of the development, that kind of thing, is a different story. So we will have physical space in Toronto at some point, probably not in the so distant future, but this team was, really built around a lot of long-term friendships, and a lot of those folks just happen to be, from or based in Calgary. And I think it's an advantage for us right now that, we can do a lot with a little bit less here in Calgary. Cost of living's better. And there's an opportunity to really make more of a stamp on the city than if we were to go to Toronto or Vancouver, where, bigger startup ecosystems, which is like a great opportunity in terms of like the connections and the learnings you can get from folks in those more developed ecosystems. But in terms of making a stamp and standing out, Calgary's honestly kind of got the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a top-notch city for startups. 'Cause yeah, low taxes, low cost of living, charismatic people, good talent, right? What more do you really need? So.
Oh yeah, you know the Prairie folks are hungry entrepreneurs, and we see it every day with the entrepreneurs that we're helping, and the folks that are in town have the benefit of they can pop by the Goodlawyer office and say hello. But like I said, we're servicing founders across Canada. And, for us, the biggest growth opportunities for 2022 are going to be in Ontario. So, we're going to be at Collision in a big way. And we're going to be definitely making some noise in Toronto and a lot of the major municipalities in Ontario in the middle and towards the end of this year.
Great. Looking forward to we're located here in Kitchener-Waterloo, so looking for if you're ever in town.
We'll be in Waterloo, my friend. Oh, absolutely. We love the folks over at Communitech and are very overdue for a visit. So
excellent. No, it sounds, I guess, talking about your founding team there and how you've been able to make it all happen. So I know that you have the legal expertise, and you mentioned someone in product as well as someone on the development side of things. Tell me a little bit more how you made it all happen in those early days.
Mm-hmm. So I do bring an element of the legal expertise, certainly, having practiced as a corporate lawyer for 4+ years. But frankly, that's not the main value that I bring. And that original co-founder that went back to private practice, he was kind of that legal brain. And now, in a bit of a coup, I was able to recruit our chief legal officer, and again, another really close friend I grew up with playing soccer, but just an all-around fantastic team player and contributor, Josh Weinberger. And so he joined us about a year ago, and he's the chief legal officer. So now he really brings the legal insights more so than me. I get in there on a little bit of the pricing stuff, but for me, I'm really wearing the founder cap 24/7. When it comes to product, I've been so fortunate to have found my two co-founders, Tom and Parker. They have, with very little involvement of me, built a beautiful product, and they just keep getting better every day. So for me, as kind of the business guy, having two co-founders, and I think that it's really hard to get both the skill sets that they have into one person. You have to have the developer, i.e. Parker, the CTO, because you can't build the product. Well, I shouldn't even say that. There are some no-code solutions now that Tommy could probably make some cool things on, but you need that technical expertise, and then you need to have the design expertise as well. And those two just pair so well together. Tom acting as the bridge between me and Parker sometimes, because business demands, technical realities, and having a Tom kind of the glue guy in the middle has been. We've got this far, and I think it speaks to the three of us are a pretty powerful trio. And we got huge aspirations for Goodlawyer, but I can tell you that I'm going to work with those two guys for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's fantastic when you really connect with the fellow founders, right, and are able to get that fantastic relationship built.
Oh man, it's a happy family over here. Like I really do stress the culture piece. Like we're up to I think 25 people, and we've had interns turn over when they go back to school and that kind of thing. Nobody's quit Goodlawyer. Nobody. And it's not because we're paying the highest salaries in town. I can absolutely assure you. We like to use equity compensation to align long-term interests, and we like to build a place where people want to work. And in this type of a market where talent is scarce and it's hard to find good people and keep them, I think that's been one of our strongest sort of attributes as a company, is finding these great people and keeping them for the long term. So yeah, it's happy days over here at Goodlawyer.
Yeah, I think it's almost easier to get the revenue than a culture that's that well crafted, right? And that really kind of everyone is so aligned with it. But that's fantastic that you've been able to really, sounds like you've been able to make it work that way and create something that people love. So
well, and for us as well, limited, tight startup budget. A lot of the people on the team I've known for a long time. A lot of folks I haven't, and they're new, but aligning those long-term interests and being patient with people, learning together, I think that's a huge thing. This is my first startup rodeo, and that's the case for not everybody on the team. We do have some vets, but most of the people on the team, this is their first time working in a startup, and working in a startup is so different than any other environment I've ever been in. It moves so fast. It is so hard. incredibly rewarding, but very difficult. Like, you're playing the video game on max difficulty and Halo Legend, as Taylor likes to call it. But being patient and being able to build a base with the longevity that's going to stick around, it kind of allows you to take your time. And so for me, it's so cool because the whole company is leveling up all the time, and we just keep getting better as a group, which has been again, one of the sort of highlights for me is just watching people like Taylor is a great example. He ran bars in Vancouver, took a chance on him. I've known him for a really long time, and he's our head of customer experience, and he's incredible. Same as Katie. Katie was a personal trainer. Now she runs a huge chunk of our marketing and partnership portfolio and just continues to level up every day. And it's like, wow, now you're a video editor. Like, how did you do that? So it's been really cool to see stories like that.
That's excellent. I love the motto. Go build it is definitely, yeah, I think like the legal side of things holds a lot of great innovation and startups back. So tell me a little bit more about kind of the core problem that you saw in the market. I know you touched on it briefly previously, but can you maybe elaborate on that?
Totally. So the problem is twofold. The obvious problem, or the more obvious side of it, is law firms are expensive and scary, and founders avoid calling them. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a founder where they're like, yeah, I kind of avoid calling the law firm now because last time I did, a couple months later, I got this like $400 bill, and I was like, I didn't even remember what it was for. The guy sent like an email, and just so often we hear that. And then, if you do a bigger transaction or a bigger mandate, when you get the final bill, you're like, wow, I thought it was going to be 5 and it was 18 grand. You know what I mean? So there's just these like unpleasant surprises that lead to founders avoiding lawyers all the time. And that's really the issue that we wanted to unlock from the founder side, because as lawyers and founders like myself, I know the importance of legal and how it can be used to elevate your business. And it's not always just this obstacle that you have to overcome. And a great example of that is equity compensation. Not enough startups use equity compensation effectively, and equity compensation to top up the, significantly reduced cash amount that these folks are making that are joining the team is how we do it. We build in the purpose and the culture, but like from a compensation perspective, the equity is key. And if you don't know how to use equity as a tool, as a startup, you're already at a disadvantage compared to Goodlawyer, because Goodlawyer is using it aggressively. And, there's a reason why every big entity out there, every big corporation uses an army of lawyers, to satisfy their legal needs, because it gives you an advantage in this sort of complex economy that we're working in. So that's the founder problem that we're trying to alleviate. The insight is really on the lawyer problem, which is that you have all of these lawyers that are miserable. And, there's lots of lawyer jokes out there. Maybe lawyers don't come off as the happiest bunch, but I think it's hugely underestimated, excuse me, how much lawyers are suffering, like truly. And I remember, coming back to that painting franchise story, when we were doing that, and, I painted a couple houses, and then, we had way better painters than me, and I could focus on selling paint jobs instead of painting. But we did a lot of lawyer houses that summer. And I had 2 or 3 lawyers that summer tell me, hey kid, I know you said you're going to law school, but I know how much I'm paying you for this painting job. Like, you must be making pretty good money. You should just do this, because being a lawyer sucks. And, I'm painting like a multi-million-dollar house. And it's like, I mean, you are obviously successful, but you're advising me not to go into law. And I hear that time and time again, to their kids, don't do this. Like, it's like harder than it needs to be. So a lot of lawyers are unhappy in law firms. 50% leave the profession in the first 5 years. 50% of lawyers quit private practice in their first 5 years, which is kind of telling on its face. The kicker is that a lot of those lawyers, before they quit private practice, they work at a law firm, they didn't like that. And then they think about doing their own thing. But they, aren't kind of born and bred entrepreneurs like me. And starting their own business, which is what opening a law firm is really scary. And there's a lot of things they got to deal with. And they're not particularly good at customer support, quoting, the accounting, back end, sales, marketing, all of these business things. And that's what we focus on at Goodlawyer, is the business of law. And so they're struggling. And the stat from the Clio report, which we follow closely, is your average solo, and this is a US stat, your average solo in the US only generates revenue with 20% of their work week. So 80% of their work week, they're trying to figure out how to sell billable hours. And then they're recouping that with like these high billable hours. And it's just this totally broken system. So helping founders access all of these good lawyers who are, twiddling their thumbs far too often, focusing on things that they're not good at as opposed to practicing law, is what Goodlawyer is all about, trying to be that bridge between those two groups.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think, definitely on the satisfaction, right? So many talented lawyers out there, like you mentioned, but they don't necessarily want to be stuck kind of working on these soul crushing projects for large firms. So that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Oh man, like if you see, if we've got a stat, like a page in our pitch deck that we've been working on lately in anticipation of this next round, and there's just like the Goodlawyer cost for it. We just pulled one example out, which was an employment agreement, and your average priced employment agreement at a law firm, I think it was like $980 or something. On Goodlawyer, $480. And if you see how much the law firm takes versus how much we take relative to the lawyer, on $480, the lawyer's making more money on Goodlawyer than $980 at the law firm. The lawyer's making more through Goodlawyer and the client's paying half. So that's like how much of a spread the law firm's taking. 70% on average, the law firm is gobbling up. Lawyers getting 30. At the big firms, if you're an associate, you could be getting as little as 15% of your hour. And so there's just so much fat baked in there, and we just chop it off. We take our little 20%, 10% if you're a pro, and then the lawyer is still making, very reasonable money, but we've been able to, drop the overall cost to the founder by 50%.
Makes a lot of sense compared to them either trying to actually market themselves or to actually hit the phone, right? They're lawyers, they're not marketers, they're not salespeople. So it totally makes.
And that just sparked one other kind of key piece, which makes law especially attractive. If you're building a marketplace, which is basically aggregating, humans, fragmentation is really important. Like the more fragmentation, the better. And it is hard for me to find a profession or a service industry that is more fragmented than law. Like the biggest law firm in the entire world has about 1% of the global legal market. And it's some monster firm out of the States. But the biggest firms in the world are like 3,000, 4,000 lawyers. Like that's the biggest one in the entire world. So way more of the profession, like almost 50%, in private practice are in these like solo or tiny firm settings. And it is so hard for, a solo lawyer or even a small firm to get noticed, like trying to get on Google, near impossible. There's thousands of you, you know what I mean? So it's this fragmented industry that also requires a ton of trust. And that's what we're driving at, is this transparency and this trust building. So you can count on us to find you these good lawyers, and also ensure that the pricing and the service delivery all makes sense. And we're obsessed with the customer experience. NPS is something we bring up at every weekly meeting. How's our NPS doing? And when we're sitting at a 90 and your average firm is sitting at a 26, you can just see how we're able to build trust faster and more scalably than any of these law firms is going to be able to do on their own.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I guess really looking at the marketplace problem, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Tell us about that cold start and how you were able to really build those first few relationships.
Great question. And I think that was one of the benefits of my background in terms of what made me uniquely capable to start something like Goodlawyer. You're looking at the first Goodlawyer. So when we launched the product, I would force my friends, and their friends, if they wanted me to do a real estate, because back then we weren't as focused on founders. We've learned a lot. And I would, if they wanted me to review a contract, like no problem, You got to do it over Goodlawyer. So, put your credit card in, I'll do it. But I would just like force it over the platform. And, when we filed our trademark and we had to hire someone, I forced that lawyer to get onto Goodlawyer. And that's the only way I was going to buy the trademark from him. And so that was like the real early stage, like the first, 10 jobs on the platform. I kept practicing for, we opened up our own little law firm, and I kept practicing for about 6-7 months before, it finally caught on. We'd added some lawyers in Toronto, in Vancouver, in Calgary, just from cold outreach primarily, or maybe a few connections, some friends. And then we were able to start generating a bit of demand, and it just started to kind of grow from there. And we're at the place now. So I don't know if I'm the chicken or the egg, but the supply was there because the founders could provide the service, which is a huge advantage. And then once we had the demand starting to flow in, onboarding lawyers was a pretty straightforward process. And we're at a stage now where we have over 100 lawyers across Canada, and we have a waiting list, and are only onboarding like 20% on an as needed basis of all the folks that are reaching out. Because again, that lawyer problem that a lot of people don't recognize, because like how could you if you're not in the profession, is real. And there's a lot of lawyers looking for better solutions, and Goodlawyer is a great solution for them, not just in terms of generating new clients, helping build their book, but in terms of giving them a better sort of structure, streamlined way to deliver legal services, cutting out a bunch of that admin and headache. And then the sort of secret sauce on it is actually giving them a community. So you have all of these solo lawyers across Canada. We've got an insanely busy Slack channel with all the lawyers. And it's like, a place where if you're a solo working from home, you can go if you have a question. Hey, folks, I'm working on this thing. Does anybody have any advice? Or do you have like a precedent you could send me? Or, just sharing wins, just having a sense of community, a virtual, office next door that you can pop into and ask somebody a question has been a big value add for the lawyers. And now that the world's starting to turn back on, can't wait to start bringing some of those interactions in person and, getting some of those collisions, because, being a solo lawyer can be really lonely. So having a community that Goodlawyer can offer is a huge bonus.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you are offering that sense of community, because you get, like you mentioned, it is a lonely road, right? So that I'm sure resonates with a lot of solo practitioners, like you mentioned. I guess and
just on that note, one more thing is it was an accident. We made a Slack group because it made sense when we had 10 lawyers. It was like, this is an easy way for us to communicate, but it's just kind of evolved organically on its own to it's this place where these lawyers across Canada can jam with ideas or whatever. So it's been really cool just to kind of watch that one, because, we created a Slack group, and just to watch it sort of grow and morph over time has been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you have no shortage of solo practitioners at this stage. I guess with your past few years, what has been one of the biggest hurdles that you've overcome with your team?
Figuring out who our customer was. So when we launched Goodlawyer, not quite 3 years ago, probably like 2.5 years ago, when we launched it, we had a whole bunch of practice areas. We were doing everything. We were like real estate, family, business, immigration. We just, we were like, we can do this. All areas of law could use this, fixed fee pricing can be done everywhere. So like, let's do it all. And, we got a bit of traction, but we realized slowly but surely that we'd bitten off too big a chunk. And one of our best moves was probably about 1.5 years ago, where we just cut everything and just focused on entrepreneurs and business owners. And that was a huge moment for us because it tied in with a lot of our product development, and we were able to start focusing on, building products for a specific kind of user, being the business owner. We could build content around that, and, everything could just kind of gel. And frankly, it was so obvious at the time, because that's what I'm passionate about. I love helping other business owners. Like, I love entrepreneurs. They're my favorite people. They're so interesting and doing cool things and wanting to change what, the future looks like. So it was obvious, but even when we got to business owners, we realized that it was still too big. Business is a huge spectrum. Helping a painter with filing a lien is so different than helping a couple co-founders draft their initial documents to make sure that they're set up for investment and success. So we narrowed it again about 3 months ago, and again we've already been serving these people, and we did some analysis because we're in this 500 global accelerator right now, and we did some analysis on our customers and realized that our best customers, our happiest customers, our raving fans who are also spending and requiring these complex legal services like international patents and financings and things like that, they were startup founders. And I'd been very hesitant to chase startup founders because I felt like I was almost cheating. Like, I'm biased because obviously those are within business owner, the startup founders are those are my people, and I don't want to just go and hang out with my people because it's where I find the most enjoyment. But when we were able to do that analysis and it the numbers proved that this was our best segment, I was giddy up. This is so cool that we can focus on helping founders just like us. And when it comes to product development, we're using these products ourselves. When it comes to content, we can just tell you what we're doing and showcase all of our needs and our journey, and it applies so perfectly to that founder segment. And it's become clear, if you've ever read Crossing the Chasm, startup founders are our early adopters, and they're the ones that are going to carry us over that chasm. And so that's what this year's all about, is helping founders succeed.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Definitely seems like a great time to be in that space, given all the growth, given all the funding. Really,
a lot of tailwinds
happening,
in it too, man. And yeah, there's more founders every single day. Startups are sexier than ever. You're starting to see Netflix shows, and sooner rather than later, there's going to be reality TV startup things going on. And yeah, it's just a fantastic time, I think, in the world to be playing in startup land. And the fact that we can help solve this really annoying pain point that slows or stops startups at times is very rewarding. If we can unlock more founders to do more cool stuff around the world, then we've succeeded in our mission.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I guess on the topic of helping more founders, what is your current process for sales and marketing and customer acquisition as a whole? What are you seeing success with? I guess to really narrow that down.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the top of funnel is education. And so just trying to add value before we start trying to, generate revenue from it has been a key piece. And, in my mind, what's really exciting is that, our revenue is growing, our customer base is growing. But what's growing even more is this long tail of founders who we're helping with education that maybe aren't quite ready to launch their business. Maybe they're still it's an idea, early days, but they're starting to trust Goodlawyer because we're putting out so much free content, and it's helpful, it's engaging. And so starting with that education piece in a realm like law, where there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of confusion, and frankly, a lot of shitty content out there, and trying to create content that is both educational, but also, tolerable to watch or read has been a key strategy for us. And that's where everything starts, is education and educating founders on why law is important and how legal can help propel their business forward, as opposed to being, just an annoying sort of roadblock all the time.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. Definitely in terms of that trust and kind of that long-term game that you're playing as well, compared to I guess bus ads and billboards, which I guess most lawyers...
and that's the thing. It's not like buying a pair of sneakers where you order it and then the next time you go to another site and order it from there. It's not like that at all. When people, and that's sometimes one thing that gets lost with Goodlawyer, because you see an online platform and you're thinking skip the dishes or Uber or something. It functions in a similar-ish way in terms of you can go on and book your lawyer and it's super easy and it's slick. But at the core, we're not trying to connect you with 20 different lawyers every time you have a new legal issue. We're trying to find you the perfect lawyer that you love working with and then just facilitating that relationship. And if you need, maybe that's a corporate lawyer helping you with your day-to-day, and then you need to do some IP protection, then we bring in an IP expert, just like you would at a big firm. Someone owns that relationship. This is your trusted advisor. You need different expertise. We bring that in, but always trying to facilitate, that long-term relationship as opposed to just, quick turnaround legal needs.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Which we also do. We can definitely do the quick legal turnaround times, but really it's all about fostering these trusted advisor relationships. And that's what founders want. They don't want to explain their business every time to a new lawyer because it's cumbersome and it's not going to lead to the best results. You want someone that's bought into your business, that is there when you need them. And, that's what the good lawyers on the platform are doing. They're filling that void, and they're doing it at a price that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Definitely in terms of, having kind of that go-to generalist for most of your needs, and then having access to specialists for things like IP or anything like that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I always get a little nervous when I hear generalists. The world is so freaking complex that there are not really generalists when it comes to law. If someone's telling you, oh, I do a little bit of everything, red flags, because I worked in a big corporate law firm and I had a lane and it was very narrow and I was very good at it. If it was bank financing or regulatory, that's Brett. That's what Brett's doing. But if it was M&A, that's a Josh thing. I don't touch that at all, despite them both falling kind of under the corporate umbrella. So for us, that's one of the sort of best parts, is that we're getting you access to specialists. And, there is a lot of, consistent stuff that you see when it comes to startups and, shareholder agreements and that kind of thing. So it's not all rocket science. I'm not trying to say that everything in law is rocket science, but there are people that know industries. And so, if you can get someone that knows health tech, that's who we want to connect you with. We don't want just to send you to someone that knows how to do an incorporation. We want to send you to someone that understands your industry and can add more value than just pushing the paper.
Yeah, fantastic. Sounds like a ton of value creation really in the whole process for both parties, which is always fantastic to hear. In the interest of time,
look forward to seeing your sign up for Goodlawyer Pro, my friend.
Oh yeah, I mean it seems like a great service so far. I've been really enjoying it, so it's fantastic. I guess to wrap things up here, how can people get in touch with you further? What platforms are you active on? How can they engage with you if they're interested?
LinkedIn is definitely the best place to find me personally. So you Google Brett Colvin Goodlawyer, you can't miss it. But yeah, would love to connect with folks on LinkedIn. I'm on there every day. And then in terms of checking out Goodlawyer, goodlawyer.ca. Everybody that signs up gets their first advice session or a couple pages on their contract review for free. So you can basically take it for a spin at no cost. But that's what I would really just, if you have a lingering legal question, check us out. We've built something different, and, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised what dealing with a lawyer can look like going forward.
Excellent. Thanks so much for all the thorough information, Brett. Excited to keep an eye on Goodlawyer and see how it grows. But other than that, it's been great.
Awesome, man. Well, again, appreciate the time. Thanks for listening to the Soapbox, and look forward to connecting. We'll have to tee it up when I'm in Waterloo by June.